All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this virtual event from Majors and Quinn. My name is Steph. I am a bookseller here. For those who don't know, we are an independent bookstore in Uptown Minneapolis. And if it is your first time at one of our virtual events, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And if you are returning for a second or third or however many virtual event, welcome back. We're so thankful for your continued support. Without you guys, we really couldn't do any of this. So thank you so much. Tonight, I am very excited to welcome Lauren Walker, who is the author of The Energy to Heal. And she's going to be in conversation with Tanya Boigenzahn. And if you're interested in buying the book that we're going to be talking about tonight, you can head over to majorsandquinn.com or give us a call. There it is. I will be posting that link and our phone number in the comments. So if you want to, purchase that, we do ship internationally. So wherever you are, we can get that to you. And speaking of the comments, please just chime in, say hi, tell us where you're watching from. With these virtual events, it's always fun to see the corners of the globe that we reach. So with all of that kind of housekeeping out of the way, I will do some introductions and then get out of your hair. All right, so Lauren Walker has been a yoga and meditation teacher since 1997. She created energy medicine yoga while teaching at Norwich University, and she also taught at the Kripalu Center. Her writing has been featured in Yoga Journal, Mantra, Yoga Digest, and the New York Times, and she has published 2 other books. Walker also developed online and in-person classes and built a community of international energy medicine yoga teachers she personally trained. And Tanya Boigenzahn is the founder of Devanadi School of Yoga and Wellness, or Devanadi School of Yoga and Wellness. And she is an Ayurvedic yoga therapist, Thai yoga bodywork practitioner / teacher, and Reiki master / teacher with an emphasis in Tantric Hatha yoga, Trividya, Buddhism, and somatic healing. Her transformative work helps guide others to experience the sacred and remind them of their true nature to explore their paths with faith and skill. Tanya travels often as a guest teacher and leads retreats internationally. All right, with that, I think Lauren is going to kick us off with a little bit of body work, and then we will get into the conversation. Lauren, it is all you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Steph, and welcome everybody. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with Tanya. And I hope you are all just watching. And her beautiful cat just walked through and gave us, I'm not sure if it's a him or a her, their beautiful energy. And we get so much energy from the creatures around us, particularly animals. So I think that's an auspicious start. So I want to start us off with what's called the energy medicine yoga wake up. This is the baseline of getting your energy to work for you, getting your energy coherent. And we start every class with this, and I start every day with this. And so I want to share this with you now. I'm going to scooch my chair back a little bit so that you can see my legs. You can do this seated, you can do this standing, you can do this lying in bed, in the shower, in the car, you can do it anywhere. And so wherever you are, I'm just going to do it seated tonight. So wherever you are, you're going to get your feet grounded on the floor and feel yourself grounded if you're seated or standing, or if you're lying down, your whole back body on the floor. And just take a couple of breaths in the nose and out the mouth. So in the nose, letting the oxygen drop to the lower lungs, and out the mouth, really getting all of the air out of the lungs. One more breath in the nose and out the mouth. Okay, so you're going to keep breathing like that through this whole little practice that we're going to do together. I'm going to be doing a lot of talking, and you're going to breathe in the nose and out the mouth. So find your collarbones and then drop down into those little hollows underneath the bony tips there, and give a little pressure and notice if that's sore. And then you're going to start to thump. If thumping doesn't feel good, you can keep massaging. If it doesn't feel good to touch your body right now, if you've got an injury or you just don't want to, you can do this in the field, about 2 inches off the body, and it will have the same effect. So you're just going to thump there, and that same thing, breathing in the nose and out the mouth. Then you're going to move to the center of the chest, right over the thymus gland. This stimulates your immune system, which we all want right now online, your immune system. Nice deep breath in the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Good. Then come to the side body, just right on the side where the bra strap lands, and start to do that same thing. You can pinch all your fingers together and a little bit of a thump there. Same breathing in the nose and out the mouth. This point helps you to digest and assimilate all of your experiences physically, mentally, tonight's information, your day. So if this is a little sore, you might have not digested everything, even the food that you ate today or some experience you've had today. One more breath. Shake off your hands and tap right under your eyes on your cheekbones. They're a little bit lighter, helping your energy to ground. It is impossible to heal if your energy isn't grounded. One more breath. Shake that off. And then just close your eyes for a moment and come into silence and just let your cells listen to each other. Nice deep inhale in the nose again and exhale out the mouth. And you're going to lift your knee and you're going to march in place. Again, seated or standing, tapping the same hand to the same leg. Do that a few times. Stop, shake your hands off, and now cross them over. So this crossover pattern is the second most important flow of energy in the body. Energy needs to cross over the midline of the body, but it also needs to cross over every cell, every organ, from your DNA up to the hemispheres of your brain. This crossover pattern allows you to operate at your full level. So we want that energy crossing over. Good. Stop that. Shake off your hands. Now bring your hands together in front of the pubic bone, just on your lap, fingertips just on the thighs here, a couple of 2 or 3 inches off the body. Close your eyes and turn your attention inward. And just set an intention for yourself, just for this time together. Why are you here? What are you hoping to get? What's your intention? And then inhale, draw that right up the front of the body, and exhale, smooth your hands right into the fields around you. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale. One more. Now we want to lock in all this goodness that we just created in our energy fields. One finger into the belly button, one finger in between the eyebrows and the third eye. Press in and pull up. 3 breaths in the nose and out the mouth. Good. Release. Shake it off. Slowly let your eyes open. Come back to the present moment. So that whole little routine is called the Energy Medicine Yoga Wake Up. And it's to help you get your energy organized. And it's a standalone, and you can combine it with any practice that you do. But we were talking just before we came on here about doing something for stress. And so I want to just show you one more thing while I've got your attention on the physical body to help you interrupt that stress response. And it's super easy. You might forget the wake up, but you will not forget this. One hand over your forehead like you're taking your temperature. That's it. Same breathing pattern in the nose and out the mouth, which also helps the stress response, but that's a different conversation. Hand over the forehead. If you want to know why this works, I write about it in all 3 of my books. It is one of the most powerful interventions that you will ever see or do. You'll start to see people all over the place doing this. And we can talk about why it works and how and all of that, but trust that it does work. And if you've got some stress in your life, You can hold here briefly to interrupt that stress response, and you can hold here for a longer time to really bring the temperature down and actually start to reprogram your body so that it doesn't continually kick you into stress response. So there's your big takeaway from the night. And now I'm really excited to bring Tanya back on and dive in. We have got so much to talk about with you tonight.
Thanks, Lauren. That was a great start to our conversation. It feels nice to have some energy moving, and this palm on the head is really, I read about it in your book, but actually doing it with you, I can feel it and I want to know more. So it's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. So first, I'm really thrilled for you, this new book. How did this one get birthed? Was it like was it always the book you wanted to write, or how did it happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Tanya and I, just to give you all a little context, have known each other for a really long time and have studied together while we were both training and also already teaching, but deepening our training. And so I studied yoga for many years and taught yoga for many years and kept having these traumatic experiences that my yoga practice wasn't able to resolve. My yoga practice was keeping me level, but it wasn't really resolving issues for me or allowing me to move forward in the way that I knew I wanted to in my life. And I met Donna Eden at a real crux turning point in my life, where I was either going to have to find other yoga practices, different teachers, what was I going to do, and the or showed up. Two different people, two different countries within the span of the month introduced me to the work of Donna Eden. And working with her practices, I started to learn truly, for the first time, I understood what energy was, how it operates the body. And I started to resolve these traumas. And I created energy medicine yoga in that time with that whole process, and then wrote another book about it. And the fullness of life is that it never stops. And I was resolving traumas, but I was not understanding really the root of it all and what I could do energetically and physically to finally be free. The last piece of learning for me was understanding field theory. So if you've had a traumatic experience in your life and you haven't resolved it, you draw more trauma to you. And that was me. I was the trauma magnet, the one that everyone was like, why does those things keep happening to that woman? Like, gosh, And it was one last massive traumatic experience that threw me to the bottom of the well. And the process of healing that took me over a year to get out of the well and to start to heal, is what this book, it became the book. What I did to heal myself became the book. And that was just what I was doing. I had no intention to write that until person after person after person who was healing their trauma through the work that I was sharing with them said, please write this. Like, you've helped me with something I thought I'd never heal. And finally, one of my dearest, oldest friends asked to read it. And I was like, I'm not doing anything with that. That's in the trash can. She's like, let me just read it. She read it and she said, Lauren, take it out of the trash can. This has to get out there. So it was really birthed of me desperate to find a way to move forward in my life after experiences that were just horrific.
Yeah, and it seems like that is such a hot topic right now. I mean, I'm a full-time yoga and wellness educator, and I hear this more than ever is, what can I do to help me with this trauma? It's now something that people are interested in, whereas before, maybe it was something we pushed aside and we found coping mechanisms, and now it's all the rage. So I feel like your book is really well timed, and I'm excited for people to learn more about what you're sharing and start to use the practices. There's so many practices in the book. That's what's so cool. There's just pages after pages. And what I really loved is that you give a context about how energy medicine yoga works, and then you help people kind of identify where they're at and how they can start to work with their trauma. So it seems really understandable for somebody that maybe isn't a yogi or someone who wants to try something more holistic or body centric, breath centric, as opposed to sitting and talking. You know, like how many times we sat doing therapy and then you leave and your body is still triggered by remembering those events. So like, tell me more about that and how this works for you.
Yeah, no, that, you know, I really did want to write this book for people that maybe don't practice yoga at all and might be intimidated by it, because we are in a global trauma response right now. And the reason that stress is also on the cover is because we're in a global stress response, but also stress and trauma work in the body almost exactly the same way, with the chemicals that are released and the fields of energy that are drawn in to activate, and the physical body that's activated by stress is the same as the physical that's activated by trauma. And stress is something that is easier to talk about and discuss, and everybody has it, and it's almost like a badge of courage. But when we talk about our stresses and we talk about our traumas, we can increase them. We can re-traumatize ourselves. So when I said to you, you know, the biggest trauma I went through precipitated this book, I very deliberately didn't share what that trauma was, because my goal tonight is not to put everyone in trauma response. But you know how that is when you're holding space for someone that's going through something really difficult. You might start to cry with them. You get angry with them. Like we are energetic beings, and our fields affect other fields, whether that's emotionally or just being next to someone, or we share our stories. And so when we share our stories in therapy, the therapist is giving us tools, but unless you're working with a somatic therapist, you're getting intellectual tools. Maybe you get tools of writing or things like that, but they're all working with the mind. And you know, and I know from years of studying yoga, you can't think yourself out of trauma. You can't talk yourself out of trauma, just like you can't talk yourself out of stress. You need to release the trauma from the physical body. And this that we did at the very beginning is, I mean, I cannot even tell you how many hours that I spent in this hold, crying, sleeping, just in, you know, in that freeze position, fight, flight, freeze, right? Where you just can't move, you're immobilized. And this is all I could do. But this is doing a magical, incredible thing of reprogramming subtly the nervous system with your own electromagnetics. Your body, you are doing it. You have the power within you. And that is something that I think is important too, to share out with people, yogis or non-yogis. We've heard that forever, you know, everything is within. But when you're going through crisis, you're looking for tools without. And so we can give the tools, the ideas, the references, the books, the teachers, those come without. But the best work is the ones that allow you to access your inner resilience and the tools that we do all each have within, but we might not know how to access those.
That's awesome. I noted right away in the book this idea that trauma is energy. Like, it's a field, there is something to it. But then right after that, you're like, and it can be healed. So it's, I mean, one of the things I think that sets up the reader is there's a confidence to, like, there's a path, there's a way to move through this. And you're bringing in tools that are rich in tradition and, you know, ancient wisdom, but making them super practical and allowing people to really start to take ownership for their own healing, which is, I think, is, at least for me, I know when we've talked in the past, the work that we do with clients and individuals, that's a necessary ingredient, is the willingness to accept where you're at, and then the willingness to continue to move towards, you know, the lessening of suffering, you know, which is what I think of as healing. At least you can still have pain, but are you suffering with the pain? You know, and how we relate to all of our stories, the context can change, and a lot of that is changed by shifting the body and our perspective.
And you know, you just brought up two really interesting things. That paradox of accepting yourself fully as you are right in this moment, and desiring and moving towards transformation. And those are both true at the same time. And I think that's important. Pema Chodron talks about the subtle aggression against the self. When you, even, I don't say even, often in the spiritual world, we're going towards something. I want to be a better person, a better meditator, a better yogi, a better person, whatever you're going towards. And it might not even be a spiritual thing. You want to, I'm not going to say the lose the 10 pounds thing, but right, how many women do you know come to yoga class and that's their, so we want to transform, but that transformation can only happen when you first love and accept yourself exactly as you are right now. So to hold those two paradoxes, so I appreciate that you bringing that up. And you also brought up that suffering and the lessening of suffering. And when I first was told the etymology or learned the etymology of that word, it changed things for me because suffering means to undergo. So it's just your experiences. That grasping that we wish it were something else, that is part of the pain body that we cling to. We want it to be different. We want it to have been different. We want to go forward different instead of we underwent this experience and now we need to release the energy of that experience. You're always going to have that story. What I went through, that is my life story. What you went through, that is your life story. That will not change. But if you continue to be in pain over that physically, let me say this, if you continue to hold on to the story mentally and the energy, then physically you will be in pain. And that is the pain that we're seeing so much in the world today. These diseases that are born from the stresses and the traumas that we've gone through that we haven't known how to deal with, or even that we needed to deal with them.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the process in which you work with, like this 5-element theory, the 5E star. I mean, there's a lot of really cool, for people that are more visual, there's graphics and drawings and info that really helps you understand. So speak to that a little bit. I'd love to know more on that.
Yeah. So we have 9 energy systems that run our energetic body and then give life to the physical body. And if you've studied yoga for a while, or even if you haven't, you've probably heard of some. You've heard of chakras. Most people, especially in the yoga world, have heard of chakras. If you've ever had acupuncture, you've heard of meridians. You've often heard of the aura, maybe in like a joking context, or you've studied it in yoga. It's actually scientifically validated now. They call it the biofield. Aura was a little too woo-woo for them. But there's 9. There's 9 energy systems. And one of the energy systems is from ancient Chinese medicine, and it's called the 5 elements. Now, 5-element theory is that everything in the universe, everything in your body, every system in your body, the digestive system, reproductive system, the blood, everything, the waterworks, every part of your body, every part of your mind, every part of your spirit, every part of your journey from being a baby to growing up, being an elder, everything on the planet falls into one of 5 categories. So we've got this massive exploration of the universe, but we simplify it because everything is only one of 5 things, which makes it much more simple to work with. And that element, so there's 5 elements. And like astrology, we each have a dominant element. And that's your element that you are born with and you have through your whole life. And that element is the lens through which you see the world. It's also the lens through which you get sick and the lens through which you heal. So it's the color gel in your eyeglasses. You know, you hear the rose-colored lenses, right? So there are those people that look at the world and it's always half full. And then there's those people that's always half empty, or it's gray, or it's, so it's the lens, it's our filter. And so understanding how you operate in the world and then knowing that everybody else is also in one of their elements, right? So then you look at the world with a little bit more compassion. But more importantly than that, is there anything more than compassion for the world? I don't know. But let me sidestep that and say how this process works is every experience you've gone through has a little bit of each of the elements, just like you have a little bit of each of the elements. Every experience has a little bit of each of these 5 elements. And in order for you to fully gather the information that you need to from the experience and to fully release it, you need to, what I call, light up each point of the star. In other words, you need to understand the information that that story is giving you through each of those lenses, so that you can be complete with that experience. And that completeness then allows you to let the energy go. And what that does is, I mean, we've got to come back to the understanding that we are only energy. That's all we are, is energy. When you look into a molecule, into a cell, into an atom, and then you go looking in the atom to see where the bits are, there's nothing, 99% empty space. We are vibrating bits of energy, light, frequency, sound, however you want to language it. They're all the same, little bits of things vibrating really fast. So if those things are vibrating and they are causing static, or they're stuck, that's causing you pain in the physical body. That stuck energy is causing you pain, and that static is causing you pain. And the release is bringing you back into coherence. That is allowing yourself to be tuned in completely to the radio station that you are, so that you can be clear. You clearly get your signal. You get the information that you need. And you know that. I know you've spent a lot of time strengthening your intuition. And that's a piece of that, clearing the static so that you can hear what you're meant to hear, and then have the strength to do what you're meant to do with that information. And so in this process that I lead you through in the book, you have your issue, you put it into this wheel, you spin through the wheel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Well, or one time through each station on the wheel, however many spins it takes you to get to that information completion. And then you release it. And then you can do it for the next issue and the next issue and the next issue, as life continues to unfold for you and stresses continue and traumas continue. You have this tool then that you can hold up to any experience and be finally free of it with this really easeful process. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Like the first time, right? Like anything, you're like, I don't know, there's a lot going on here. I don't understand. Wait, I'm on the 3rd point of the star. What do I do? But in the book, I guide you through that really clearly, so that you can get that understanding, and that it really does become a powerful tool in your toolkit.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just super exciting. I'm really happy for you and sharing the wisdom that comes from your own experience. And, again, it's just like this idea of when you're going through the pain of the story, but then something is birthed from it that becomes so helpful, so useful, becomes dharmic. It becomes that which moves out into the world in a wave. So that reflection of looking back, even that seems a part of this whole cycle, that in hindsight, that had to happen in order for you to be here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a part of this process too? Is that reflection or kind of contemplative process?
There's a bit of both, because there's sort of 2 paths that you can go on. A lot of our traumas happen in early childhood, before we were, pre-verbal, pre-cognizant, maybe not even fully differentiated, right? Fully separated and knowing that we were a unique being. And many of our traumas are too intense to talk about, to dissect, to go in. And so the beauty of this work is that you don't have to go back into the story of the trauma. You can, and that's a different path, but you don't have to. And you can do all of these practices and cycle through the wheel purely in an energetic way. And that these energies release from you. You don't have to name them and label them, and the recognition that they've released is when these things start to resolve in your life. You start to sleep better, you start to be, calmer, and, all of these kind of things that start to happen that are indicative that something is transforming for you. And you can also go down the intellectual path of the Raja Yogi, right? You can go into the why did this happen, and excavate the story that way. And that's the kind of yogi I am. I always want to know why. But this idea that I caused something by my actions, or that this had to happen to bring me to this place, I personally, for myself, because I've done that a lot, feel like at this point in my understanding is that that's a misreading of chaos theory, right? That I want to put a reason to this inflection point in my life, that it took me here and that I was meant to do that. And that really falls in to the understanding that we have to make sense of our lives. And the stories that we tell ourselves are what gives us kind of relief often, right? We make sense of something, we make it into a story that makes sense to us. But that story could be any different story. It's what you are giving the value to on that. And so, did my dad have to die at 49 years old when I was so young to make me the person I am today? Well, that was an inflection point in my life, and it certainly threw me screaming and kicking and crying onto the spiritual path. I love my life now, but had something different happened, I would be a different person. Did that have to happen to put me here? I think those kind of go in those unanswerable columns that are like, why did he die at all, right? There's no answer to that question. It's like, how do I put that into context so that I feel okay going forward in my life? I'm grateful for the learning that came from that spiritual journey. I would trade it all for a minute, all the books, all the teachings, for 1 minute with my dad again. So like, I'm not sure that really answers your question in the sense that you asked that, like, did it have to happen? It did happen, and here we are. Yeah. I'd love it, I'd love it if it didn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just such sage reality that we can even get stuck in the stories that become our healing stories, but then that is another attachment as well. Yeah. And then, inevitably that all has to go at some point, as we lessen all this acquired content in the mind. And, something I think about a lot is, how do you get comfortable in a time in your life that is really uncomfortable? Like, all of us are so uncomfortable right now with all these changes, and where are we going? Is this it? Are we, are we going to be here in a year? And, we always have this existential thinking, but it's a different kind of shadow. And so that space of not knowing, it's right for presence, but how do we get there? How do we get to the point where I'm just gratitude in the moment for this life? It's not as easy as you would think,
No, it's not. And you're absolutely right. That is where we do need to get to with, like, it's okay. It is what is. And, I think this idea of I had this conversation with a friend the other day, is the goal to be happy? And it's not. I don't think the goal is to be happy. I think the goal, if there is one, if we can even use that language, is to be present, to be grounded, and to be open. Because our emotional experiences, they're like, from the yoga teachings and practices and all of that, it's like, whether you consider it like clouds in the sky or bubbles in the pot boiling. And, our emotions come and go constantly cycling through all day long with every experience you have. And that grasping, okay, here's happiness, I'm going to try to hold on to this for a moment, that alone causes suffering, right? And so we just need to be open to what's happening and responsive to that in the moment. And, life it's a long and winding road. And I think really what you talked about is that discomfort. If we can find a place to be comfortable in the discomfort, which is such a large part of the asana practice of yoga. It's like we do these poses that are really uncomfortable, and we train the body to breathe in that calm, centered way so that we release the stress response, because your body goes into a stress response. You go into, stick pose, Knees, chest, chin. What is it called? The other is
Like chaturanga?
No, not chaturanga. When your butt's in the air and your elbows in by the side, and your chin is up like this onto the ground. Knees, chest, chin. It's like cricket pose, maybe. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Or chaturanga. Like that's a really hard pose. It's a hard pose, and it's a stressful pose, and you go right into stress response. And the beauty of the asana practice is that you train your body to not go into stress response when you have a stressful pose. Well, life is a stressful pose. So how do we not go into stress response? The practice of yoga, certainly the asana practice, is one way of it. For me, exploring the energy context within asana and also just within life has been transformational for me in being able to just do what you said, to be comfortable in the discomfort, in the unknowing, and to be able to keep moving forward, still doing my dharma with that unknowing and that discomfort.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So I think too, like both of us have been teachers for a long time and working with different modalities and our own experience and weaving that together. And one of the things is just the scope of where yoga is at today, as we move through all of these different world events, more loss and grief and disruption in the yoga industry and loss of teachers, ethical rules being broken, lack of practice. Like it's a time right now where I'm asking, is yoga still relevant? Do people still come back to this practice and is there a place for it when there's been so much disruption in the world?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how can we use your work for those questions, for those people who have been practicing yoga for a long time, or just people that have that mindset?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a huge conversation to bring up. I think the yoga world and the spiritual world is powerful and beautiful, and there's a massive shadow side to that. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of lack of integrity. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there. We've both had experiences with that, with being really let down by teachers. I've been involved in 3 yoga systems in the United States, all 3 of which have been rife with sexual violations.
Mm.
And I've separated myself from any of those. And how do I take the wisdom that I've gained, but not the anger and not the grief and not the complete disbelief that this is still happening, that there are spiritual teachers that are unethical, highly unethical? And how do I stay in my own center and with my ethical and moral compass and not be judgmental of them? And I feel like the yoga world is kind of a microcosm of the world at large. There's unethical behavior all around us. Massive corporations destroying the planet for profits. I consider that unethical. Countries invading other countries for reasons that are unclear. I consider that unethical and immoral. And so we have this whole system, and we're trying to be these clear beacons of light within that. And that becomes a very interesting dance. When I started to write this book, I had all kinds of directives, hidden and not so hidden, speaking to these very issues, speaking to Monsanto and Bayer and and Pfizer and just all of these big oil. Like, how dare you destroy our world so that you can live in a big house? And then how dare you not even care? And the truth is that I've discovered, I'm a wood element, so I'm just going to say that right now. So anger is my first emotion. And I lead with that. I'm angry. Why does it fall upon you and me, Tanya, to save the world? That's not fair. We're yoga teachers, we're parents, this is not fair. And my understanding through these years of study is that hurt people hurt people. Whether that's on a small level, the bully in the school who goes home and is bullied at home, then we can have compassion for the bully at school, but we still have to say, stop, Kali, stop that behavior. And then let me nurture you so you don't do those behaviors. And that goes writ large as well. Stop, Monsanto. You don't get to cover the planet in glyphosate. Just stop. You know you're wrong. And then where is your trauma? Because Monsanto is just run by people, humans who have also suffered incredible traumas in their lives. Every movement that you look at that you can see these people are whatever you want to other them by. They're evil, they're bad, they're negative, they're this, they're that. We're othering them, but they are also suffering. And so my hope is back to the yoga world and this work, that this work does find its way into the hands of the snake oil salesmen and saleswomen, right? The people that are take advantage of those of us on the spiritual path who really are struggling and looking for answers. And that those of you who are struggling and looking for answers will find this work as well and find that resilience within and find a community, because I think community is so important. That's one of the things I love that you're still doing at Devanadi, that you've got this community that you've built over years and are continuing to build. We need that. We need a place to go and be together, to practice together, to process together, to witness together. And so if you're seeking and searching, know that the resilience is within and that the community is important. I think of, those trust games where you stand in the middle of the circle and you fall and everyone kind of has the hands around you and pushes you back into the center. That's a strong community. Just support me so that when I wiggle a little, you push me back to center. But don't flip me upside down and shake out my wallet and squeeze my heart and tell me that you are my answer. Don't do that. Just give me a little nudge back to center. And that, I think, can make yoga relevant again and give people trust again and bring us back to what we know the yoga path offers, that power that it offers, and that we start to get more clear on the energies, because people are just energy, the energies that we want to bring into our lives, and the energies that we say, that's not a good energy for me right now. That's not going to support my journey.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, is there anything else that you have been just really excited to share about what you do or your book or just anything else?
Yeah, so we're doing an online course. So a lot of people learn in different ways. Some people read a book and they've got it and they go with it. Some people are visual learners. And again, that sense of community. So we have a course starting June 7th, and we are going to illuminate the book. We're going to basically bring the book to life and really walk you through over 7 weeks how to use these tools. Because there's a practice every week for each of the 5 points of the star. And then there's ways to access and utilize the other practices as well as the asana practices, so that you really can understand how to use this tool and deploy it again and again in your life. So that starts on June 7th, and we'll have live Q&As every week so that people can really share and be grounded and in their understanding, and share issues that are coming up that aren't being resolved, so that we can find other ways. Not every practice and not every technique works for every person. And, it's interesting because the reason that I brought this work forward at all is because students kept coming up to me over and over again. This happened many, many times. This resolved my trauma. Nothing else touched it. And the traumas are off the hooks, like what people have gone through. And you all know out there, you've been through life. Like, you can't get to this age without being through life. And life is unfair and full of crazy detours that we would never have expected. And these students kept saying to me, this work healed me. Not just this work helped me get through the day. I am a new, different person because of this work. And so I thought, okay. And the last 10 years, I've been trying to figure out why. Why does this work so much better than anything else that I've tried or experienced? So I've been diving into the science, and now I want a data set. So this course is a data set. we have over 300 people registered already for it. I want another 300 people. I want a really rich data set so that we can see 70% of the people resolve their issues, 90%, 2%. Like, what really is, does this work really do what I say it's going to do and what I think it can do? So that's the next place, is to share this out with as many people as possible and get that feedback. Does this work? And I, of course, believe wholeheartedly that it does, but I feel at this point I'm ready for some data set so that I can share that proof out there, because that's what we're in that weird place right now. Half the people don't care about proof and half the people do, right? And so for those that don't care, I'm going to let you know that it works. It's worked for hundreds and hundreds of people. And for those of you that do care, come join us and be part of the information gathering. So that's coming up. And if you haven't gotten the book yet, get the book from Madgers and Quinn or a local bookseller where you live, and then drop us a review on Amazon. So I did say that. I said buy it from a local retailer and then go to Amazon and drop us a review. Bezos doesn't need your money, but the local booksellers do. And if you then go to our website, and you are entered into a drawing to win a free entry to the course if you leave us a review on Amazon. So, but that's all the selling and the spiel, but underneath all that, I think the ultimate thing that I always like to share with people is that this work is really simple. It's really accessible. You don't need to be able to do a one-arm flying side crow or the splits. You don't need a cute little yoga outfit. You don't even need a yoga mat. You don't even need to have ever taken a yoga class. The energy that you use to keep yourself okay under the stress that you're under or the traumas that you're under is enormous. It's enormous. If you use just a tiny bit of that energy to heal and release these energies, which are specific signatures in your field that are crushing you, you will be free in a way that you have not experienced since you've had this trauma or these stresses in your life. And then you're free to be your light and be your dharma. And if enough people do it on both sides of that hurt people equation, then we come into peace and beauty and love and honeymoon on earth, paradise again. It's possible. We're at an inflection point in history. We are at an inflection point where we can move into healing, compassion, community, sharing, all the things we learned in nursery school, right? We can come into that. Or, I don't know, we're going really fast towards a cliff or a wall or whatever is your metaphor for not a good direction. And we're at this inflection point. So my hope is that we inflect in the right direction. Yeah. And that takes all of us.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, I thank you for doing your part, and I really hope you'll buy the book and get doing this work and find ways to incorporate it. And so much, I tell students all the time, is you just have to keep showing up, even if it's the tiniest practice, but just keep showing up and change the momentum. It's all about, if you don't want the same thing, you have to be willing to move in a new direction. And that seems to be what this is really about, in a really thoughtful, held way, and a way that's accessible. That was a question that you answered. I wanted to know, do you have to have a background in yoga? And you made it really clear that this really is for anybody. So thanks.
Yeah. And I think what you just said is so important. You have to keep showing up. This is not something that you're going to do 20 minutes once and you're done. You've got to keep showing up. And, something that I learned in yoga long ago that I never really grokked was if you work on yourself, you can change the world, right? And I was like, really? Because that feels kind of selfish to me. And that feels kind of isolated. So here I am going to a yoga retreat in Bali. How is that saving or healing the world? Like, that seems like it's just for me. And I thought that for years. But for years, it was just like, well, I need to save myself because I'm drowning. So that's okay. I'm going to save myself, and the world just will do whatever she needs to do. But when I really started to understand energy and how it affects, how it is all interconnected, that finally made sense to me. Because if I am incoherent, imagine we're in a lake. You're in Minnesota, 10,000 lakes. So imagine you're in a lake, and I'm in the lake, and I'm thrashing and kicking and beating my arms and screaming really loudly. And you're swimming near me, and the water is getting into your face and into your nose and into your eyes, and I'm screaming, and it doesn't sound good. You're close enough to my field that I am disturbing your field and the field of the whole lake. If I calm myself down and float on my back and do these little figure 8 patterns so that I can stay afloat, then the whole lake around me calms down. And you can just swim by then, Tanya, and you can be okay, because you don't have to save me because I might be drowning, and you don't have to be disturbed by me because I'm having a fit. You get to just stay on your path. So if I heal myself, I help you. I help you not to have to be disrupted by my disruptive chaos. And that is truly how energy works. And then that's how movements work and build. We join our energies together, but our energies are already joined together. And so when I do my healing and I calm my energies down and I come into coherence, I bring peace to the world, because my little bubble is connected to the world. And if all of our little bubbles are little peaceful bubbles, then we're in a bubble of peace. And that's really the power of yoga, that deep understanding of what that union really means. And we need to keep showing up. We need to keep smoothing out our fields, and we need to stay connected to each other, and reflect for each other and witness for each other, because that's an important piece of healing. So, yeah.
Thank you. Well, maybe we should see if there's some questions from anybody that's watching. Getting to that time. Does anybody have questions? You can write them in the comments window. Oh, there's Lisa. We know of somebody in the chat here. Lisa Swenson. Hi, Lisa.
Awesome. Beautiful. Yeah. So can I pose a question to you, Tanya?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've shared some of the traumatic experiences that you've gone through over the past few years, just personally, like outside of the global traumas that we've gone through. And I'm curious where you feel in your own process with healing from that. Do you feel that it is possible to be fully free of what you've gone through, of the residual effects of what you've gone through? Do you feel like you're still in suffering from that? And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's okay. And you certainly don't need to share your experiences, but just you're a yoga teacher, highly regarded in the yoga world and community. So I'm just curious how you've navigated such a difficult time.
Yeah, in my experience, it was kind of like one thing after the other, kind of just kept coming in waves. And just practicing patience and presence and that perspective of kind of like what you talked about earlier. If I stuck with my kind of daily routine, and that's something I'm really committed to, it felt like I had so much gratitude for that when these things would come, that, oh, this is why we do this, that there's a residual effect of stability in me. So I can separate from this pain and look at it knowing that it is temporary, and it's awful in the moment, but it's also part of the human experience. It just allowed me to see it in many different lenses, to not just get so engulfed all the time. But at the same time, being human, sometimes you just are in it. And there's that too. So, I mean, as far as the healing process, absolutely. I feel like a lot lighter. A lot of it has come down to just more rest and getting through some of the work that have needed to do to manage some of these things. But looking forward to continuing to work. I'm excited to do your energy medicine yoga. I'm super excited to adopt some of these things into my practice. Part of that too is just because I stay open to what shows up in my life for shifting the energy, and just because I work with energy so much in my own career and vocation, it makes sense to me, and I can feel a pull to working with it more in a profound way. And a lot of the yoga that I've studied and practiced is therapeutic, Ayurvedic yoga therapy. But as far as like a system in which to move through the emotional cleansing regularly in a holistic manner, that's what I am really excited about in working with your work. Yeah, I'm excited for the relief to come, to be on the other side of some things. Some things take a little longer to digest, and especially when they still have things you have to deal with,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And there's two things that really spoke to. The one is you talked about the resilience, and that is actually an indicator of how well we will do after a traumatic experience, is how much resilience you have going into it. And for those of us that suffered childhood trauma, and when we were so mini, we didn't know what resilience was yet. The beautiful thing is that you can build resilience. So if you don't have it, you can build it. And I think it's a testament to the work that you have been doing for so many years, that you have been able to stay so grounded and centered through some quite big storms, and that well of resilience has really fed you and served you. And so I'm happy to hear that. And the other piece that you mentioned, which I'm so glad you did because we hadn't yet, is the emotional component. And I think for me, that is also the most powerful piece of energy medicine yoga. Is you don't have to leave your emotions outside. You bring them in and we work with them. And that's the peak of each of these 5 points, is that transformation of that challenging emotion that's been so difficult, getting to that place where you're more at peace. And you can really transform and let that emotion go. So thank you for bringing that emotional component in, because a lot of yoga practices, the emotions don't have any play. They don't ever come into play. And yet we're emotional beings, and we come to the yoga mat and we often have emotional releases, and then we don't know what to do with them. So that's a really big piece of EM yoga, is that emotional component. And I'm excited that you're going to do these practices as well. And I'd be so fascinated to hear, maybe we come back to Madgers and Quinn and sometime later and talk about your work more, and then if you've done this program, how it's affected you. And so I'm glad that you're going to be in the data set.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah,
super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna hop in at this point. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of our hour. But Lauren, Tanya, I just want to really thank you guys really deeply for taking the time out to talk to each other and talk to us, and just kind of let us witness your conversation. It has been such a wonderful and enlightening hour for me, and I'm sure everyone watching. And I do want to remind everyone that this video is going to be up on our YouTube page in perpetuity. So if you would like to, return to this conversation, or if you know somebody who wasn't able to join us this evening, please send them the link. I think this is one that will be good to come back to. So thank you guys so much. Thank everyone for watching. And I hope everyone has a lovely night.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining. And thank you, Tanya. It's been so wonderful speaking with you. And thank you, Steph and Madgers and Quinn, for hosting us. So appreciate it. Go buy my book and then go buy a bunch of other books down there. It's a beautiful store. So go check it out. And thank you again, Tanya. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a nice night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.